Alright fam, what's up? It's a gangster preacher. So we've been reading my book once a week on my YouTube channel under Gangster Preacher. This is my book right here, From the Streets to the Throne by Isaiah Blancas. It's available on Amazon. And today we're going to be reading chapters 7 and 8. So I'm going to be doing 2 chapters from now on. It don't take so long, alright? So we're going to go ahead and start. And I'll break some stuff down for you guys as I go through it. So number 7 is building friendships. And it says, when I went to Jackie's on the weekends, more guys around my age or younger started hanging around with us. They either lived there or lived around our territory. Homeboys like Barney, who had moved to the Jackie's projects from some other projects on the west side with a gang who we considered enemies. My older homeboys really picked on him and beat him up a little bit more than the others because of it. But he got jumped into the gang and was down for the cause. Another homeboy that was younger than me was Tiny. He lived in the Jackie's projects. I don't ever remember him having his dad in his life. His mom was a drug dealer who sold marijuana, cocaine, and heroin. A lot of homeboys would buy drugs from her. Tiny, even though he was younger than us, would always have drugs on him. Conejo, in English, Rabbit, my homeboy moved to the Jackies from some projects in South Central El Paso. I remember always picking on him and trying to fight with him. And I'm gonna stop there, and it's because he moved from somewhere else, you know what I mean? And that's just how we were. But anyways, I'm gonna keep going. We had big parties at Valdo and Manny's house. A lot of homeboys from young to old would get together there. Everyone drinking and doing drugs. We would fill the whole apartment up, and it was no small apartment. It was an apartment with 4 floors. The guys my age would be partying on the first floor and second floor. Valdo, Manny's mom, and the other old school homeboys such as Chewy, Spider, Joker, Speedy, Yogi, and many others who were always in and out of jail or prisons, played cards or dominoes, drank and did drugs on the 3rd and 4th floor. Many times the guys would go up there with girls to have sex or chill out. Manny partied there with the guys his age like Pee-wee and Coco. We started to grow bigger and stronger. Even though I lived in the east side, now I considered the west side Jackie's my home. It was at this time that a lot of homies from Jackie's really started getting into heroin. A lot of us kicked back at Barney's house playing oldies in the background while they prepared the utensils ready to shoot heroin. And you know, I want to stop there, man, because it just I could see it like if it was yesterday, man. You know, us being there and my homeboys doing this, what I'm about to read to you. You know what I mean? It's just so vivid in my mind. It says they used a beer bottle cap and cotton from the inside of a cigarette butt and placed black tar heroin inside that they usually purchased from Tiny's mom or the Segundo Barrio in downtown El Paso. Then they put a little bit of water into the beer bottle cap and started heating it up with a lighter, and then mixed it with the back end of a syringe needle. They would stick the cotton into the bottle cap, which would then absorb the water and the heroin. Then they used the needle from the syringe to suck up the heroin from the bottle cap and shoot it up into their veins. Sometimes they would mix cocaine in with the heroin and they'd shoot it that way. They called it speedball, or in Spanish they would say a speedbalazo. They would you know, say a lot, "Que vamos a chutear un speedbalazo, homie," and you know, talk, you know, gangster slang like that in Spanish. I'm gonna keep reading. They smoked weed, took pills, and drank beer all the time. My homeboys got so messed up that many of them would have whole cigarettes hanging out their mouths burned to nothing but ash, never having taken a hit. When the heroin would kick in, they would be telling each other, "Órale," or "Que hubo le quequis," or "Si me entiendes ese," which is normal Mexican American gangster quotes in the hood. A lot of my homeboys live to steal and get high. And I want to stop there because like orale means like alright, you know what I mean? Or, you know, when they would say like cubo or cubole, I mean like, you know, we're getting down, or, you know, that's what it is, you know what I mean? or si me entiendes, ese is like, you know what I'm saying, you understand me? So those were quotes that they used. I'm gonna keep reading now. Not a lot of us, but some. Well, I'm gonna read a little bit before that again, so you could get what I was saying. A lot of my homeboys live to steal and get high. Not all of us, but some. I was a little different. I wanted to do drugs too, but I also wanted to be a drug dealer myself. I wanted to be either respected or feared. Now, I'm not saying my homeboys weren't down, because they were. We were all crazy. They groomed us to be hard as nails. In my mind, there was no gang bigger or badder than ours. But I didn't want to be known as someone who just stole to get high. I wanted to control things, like I had seen from the older homeboys, and especially my uncles. If I stole or robbed a house, it was to have money in my pocket, not just to get high. Don't get me wrong, I was always on drugs and high myself, but a hardcore respected or feared gangster is what I dreamed to be, and I was headed straight towards that. Back at school on the east side, I was always in trouble. It was hard for my grandparents to control me. I wouldn't listen to them. I stayed out late, did whatever I wanted. I was not disrespectful to them in the sense that in those days, the early 90s, 1990s, gang members respected their elders. If we saw an older lady in the neighborhood carrying groceries into her home, we would ask if she needed help and help her. If I was ever caught cussing or being disrespectful to my grandparents and my uncles found out, I would get a beating I would never forget. I just did whatever I wanted. And if they yelled or got mad at me, I would just ignore them. It was looked down upon in my day to disrespect your elders. I was in so much trouble at school that they put me in SAC, which was a place where they put troublemakers. You weren't allowed to eat with other students at lunchtime, and we were pretty much stuck in that classroom. I would be there the whole day. Even there, I wouldn't listen, and I ended up in the big program again in middle school. This was for the worst kids. I hated the big program, and my grandparents were sick and tired of putting up with me. I think my aunt and uncle in Las Vegas told my grandma to send me to them to see if I would act better. And I'm gonna read number 8, and that's Las Vegas. So before I went to high school in El Paso, I ended up with my aunt and uncle and cousin in Las Vegas, Nevada. They had moved out there maybe a year earlier. There I was, and that's where I got to see my older cousin Izzy again, the one who I liked being around and taught me how to skateboard years earlier. He was there because him and his mom had issues themselves. He had been on his own since he was 16 years old, and he was there working, trying to save some money and better himself. We lived in an area nicknamed Naked City. It was a bad area too. My aunt enrolled me in a school there, but nothing really changed in my life for the months I stayed with them. I found little gang members to hang around and started smoking weed with them. I had to clean my aunt's house and do other little chores. I slept on the living room couch because their 2-bedroom apartment barely had enough space for my aunt, uncle, and cousins. That was fine with me. It was better than living on the streets or at the detention home back in El Paso. And as long as I listened to basic rules, I was okay. My uncle was one of the ones that wanted to kill my dad, but they always showed me love as I was a kid and I had no fault in what my dad did. He was strict about keeping rules. My uncle was a hardcore guy who everyone respected in the streets and someone I looked up to. I had parties there and got drunk and made my little cousins fight other little kids in the neighborhood just to entertain Izzy and me. Since we didn't have boxing gloves for them, we would wrap towels or bed sheets around their little hands and make them fight. I loved being around my older cousin and family. My aunt and uncle started having personal problems and divorced, so I ended up back at my grandmother Rosemary's mobile home in El Paso. I was 14 years old and getting ready to start school at Hanks High School in the east side of El Paso. You think it couldn't get worse, but it did. The next chapter that I'm going to read next week is number 9, and it's called Back to El Paso. and number 10, which is the chapter's named Mexico. So I hope you guys got something out of these 2 chapters today. Again, the book is From the Streets to the Throne by Isaiah Blancas. It's available on Amazon. Also, you guys can see, I always told you guys when I end that I'll wear something different. I'm wearing a black From the Streets to the Throne shirt today. These are $25, and I also have a white From the Streets to the Throne beanie on, which are $20 as well. If you guys like this, my book reading and what I'm doing, hit like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is under Gangster Preacher. And if you guys would like to get merchandise that you guys see on there, you guys could email me. My email is isaiahvrc@gmail.com. That's ISAIAHVRC@gmail.com. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, man. I just want to read a few chapters for now on, because it was going too long, and I want to stay at maybe like 10 to 15 minutes, and that way you guys don't lose your span, your mind span, and it's too long for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. Much love from the Gangster Preacher, and I'll be reading another 2 chapters next week and uploading them. All right, much love to you guys. God bless you guys, and I hope to see you guys next week. Again, click like, subscribe, and much love.